sending a notice out to all of its scientists who work on this area saying, don't answer these questions, refer them to the front office. So the government releases some information, and there have been a lot of criticism that they've censored their own scientists on global warming. But that's not really how we work. Any reporter worth anything is going to use the government to the point that they can to get information and access to scientists who study it. But then they're going to go out and pay no attention to the government and just seek out the issue and try to get to the bottom line. There is a lot of debate about global warming and how real it is and what the consequence of it is, and it's up to the reporters to go out and really, without a bias, really try to find the ground truth. So government is only a part of that. They can be a big help or they can be a big obstacle. In this case, they're trying to be an obstacle, and that could reflect the president's view that global warming is not as bad as other people make it out to sound. But really, your job is not to depend on the government. It's to get around the government if they're being an obstacle.
Thanks. Hi.
Hi, my name is Hannah Kuhar. I'm from Albany, New York, and my question is mainly for Mr. Reid. How do you feel about Speaker Pelosi's recent announcement on the policy to begin pulling out troops from Iraq starting in March 08?
And I don't have any personal opinions, but to me the interesting thing about where we are now, and it was really foreseeable on Election Day, is that the Democrats are essentially powerless to do anything about it. There's just no way they can tie the president. Maybe they'll come up with something, but even if the House can pass some kind of withdrawal legislation, it's bottled up in the Senate by a filibuster, and the Democrats can't possibly overcome that unless a lot of Republicans suddenly change sides, and I think the only way that's going to happen is if things really deteriorate on the ground over there. And even if they did manage to pass legislation in the House and the Senate, the President has promised to veto it, and they don't have anything close to the votes it would take to override a veto. So at this point, all they can do is really through binding, or even if they're trying to pass binding legislation as opposed to a sense of the Senate resolution, they can't pass it. They can't pass it. Everything they're doing is really just talk now. But talk is important. It doesn't mean they should stop doing what they're doing. If that's the way they feel about it, they should try to pass it, pass what they can, force the president to veto it, get the debate out there. And the real reason for doing all this is to get the American people thinking about it and educating themselves about it. And that's what we do. Even if Congress, that's what Congress does, and that's what we help them do by getting it out to the American people. So just because they can't pass something, I don't think they should just stop doing it. But I tell you, the bottom line is it all depends on what happens in Iraq. If everything goes to hell in a handbasket, then some kind of legislation probably will pass at some point. But if things just, they're bad, but not utterly horrendous, then the Democrats are essentially powerless, other than using moral suasion to try to convince the president to change course.
Thank you. Hi.